And the threat of anti-Semitism is an amorphous, nebulous thing that's like hard to measure and hard to say. And Jews, our whole life.
Bro, anti-Semitism is bad, but you're conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. So you think there's more anti-Semitism than there really is, and you think it's on the left when it's not on the left. On the left, we love Jews. We love peace. We love each other. We love everybody. We love trans people. We don't fucking hate each other, bro. But you keep conflating anti-Zionism, which is something the left does. We hate Zionists because Zionism's bad. Zionism's bad. But you're conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which it's not. You keep doing it. The thing.
In America.
Cuba, you very nice place. From hills of Guantanamo to southern Havana. Don't do that. That is not a good thing to do. That's gross. Alrighty, y'all. I didn't get to this yesterday, but let's watch the H3 conversation with Sam Seder, not Ethan Klein. Not Hasan Piker. Even though Ethan Klein kept bringing up Hasan Piker like fucking constantly. But let's check this out.
Everybody, welcome to the show, Mr. Sam Seder.
Okay? Oh my God, it's Sam Seder.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
How have you been, Sam, since we ruined Steven Crowder's life together? Nice to see you again.
I've been feeling very badly for him.
Yes,
over the years.
it's a tragic loss of a great career and so much potential.
Yes, it is. Hey, are we live now?
We are live on the H3 channel, yes.
I want to just start by sort of apologizing in that I sent you a DM on Twitter 6 months ago or something. I was just going through to find out, and then I just realized you're no longer on Twitter.
Yeah.
So that explains why I didn't hear back. So that explains why I didn't hear back.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I wish I would have, but honestly, I don't know what to do because I want to get off Twitter, but also it's kind of a pain because Twitter is the way that I would reach out and speak to most people. But I also don't want to be on a platform that's owned and perpetuates basically Nazi shit. So
yeah, this was yes, I understand that.
Yeah,
but I just wanted you to know I did reach out, and it was on me not to realize that. I just assumed he didn't want to respond, but
okay. Well, that's nice to know that you reached out. I appreciate that. And the reason, I mean, obviously, people have been pushing for this conversation. I don't know if you know the whole lore of it, the background of it.
I don't. I mean, this is all I know is that Hasan reached out to me sometime. I mean, I got in touch with you October 24th, and I said that I was meaning to reach out for a couple of weeks. So I assume it was sometime in early October, and
because Ethan Klein was spiraling into a Zionist. He was spiraling into a fucking Zionist because he kept fucking defending Israel. Yoav Gallant, his wife kept pushing him to defend Israel. She kept fucking up. And then people were calling him a Zionist because he keeps spouting out Zionist talking points, and he gets mad.
We were just going to do this off air, but my understanding is that you and he were getting into it, and you felt like because he wasn't Jewish, he didn't have a perspective on this, and that's why he suggested that you speak to me.
Yeah, because Ethan Klein would say to Hasan, how can you speak for all the Jews? Basically, that's what he would say. He would be like, Hasan, how can you speak for all my people? That's basically what Ethan would say. And so then Hasan told Ethan, yo, go talk to Sam Seder, please. Please.
Hey, I don't speak for all Jews, just to be clear.
Right.
I speak for only myself as a in any form.
Well, Sam, allow me to speak for all Jews, if I may, today.
Please.
No, actually, I mean that's a total mischaracterization, which is kind of my problem with.
That's not true. That's not a mischaracterization. That is not a mischaracterization. He's fucking lying already, bro.
On which we can get into if you want. We don't even have to talk about Hasan. But
look at his hands. Look how he's shaking. He's shaking.
But basically, what I told him was that I was citing polling data that shows that about 70 to 80% of diaspora Jews have some kind of positive feelings towards the state of Israel. And he was disagreeing with me. And I mean, this is available by polls, readily available by Pew Research just last month, showing that, and I don't know if you agree with that or not, I can pull it up, but 72% of diaspora Jews have some type of at least positive feelings about the state of Israel. I was stating that fact to him, and he was saying that I was wrong. And I said, who are you to talk about this? I did not say that I only listen to Jewish people, which is a little bit of presumptuous and a little insane.
No, I don't think that's not what I took him to say. But yeah, I mean, Hasan is that's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I haven't seen that poll. I've seen ones that have said that they have a connection. They feel a connection, either strong or somewhat, which is different than positive per se.
So
but regardless, I mean, I think if I don't know your upbringing at all, but I mean certainly my upbringing, my Hebrew education was, I would say, 1/3 Holocaust, and I'm older, and so this was in the 70s. 1/3 into the 80s, 1/3 Holocaust, 1/3 Israel, 1/3 Hebrew, like Hebrew and Jewish culture. And I certainly feel a strong connection to Israel, but I wouldn't call it positive these days.
Sure. I think what the poll attempts to is basically, if you ask Hasan or a lot of people on the left, I think an emotional attachment is the way to describe this. So it's like if you think
I certainly have an emotional attachment, and it's not, but it's not. I wouldn't describe it as positive.
This isn't the one, is it, Dan? There's the one that shows 73% of diaspora Jews. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Regardless, basically, I want to flesh out my ideas, my thoughts, because I'm being characterized by Hasan and a lot of his cohorts as being, a Zionist, being pro-Israel, being a Israel apologist, being a genocide supporter, being a baby killer, being married to a baby killer, et cetera, right? My wife is Israeli. I don't know if you know that. So basically, I would like to just take the opportunity to explain my ideas, what I think about Israel, and you can tell me what you think, because apparently I will only listen to other Jewish people. So finally, I can speak to someone whose opinion.
Yeah, and that's what you said, you idiot. You were saying that Hasan. How can Hasan speak for the Jews? That's literally what you were saying. And now that they brought that argument up, you were like, "No, I didn't say that. That's a mischaracterization of what? Get the fuck out of here, bro. You're a fucking liar. You're a little weaselly little ass liar."
Matters to me. So thank you as the official sanctioned Jewish man, Sam Seder, everybody. 100% Ashkenazi? You ever taken one of those?
I haven't, but I'm quite sure I have some Sephardic Jewish ancestry too. So I would mix.
That's good.
Vilnius and Hungary, I think.
Good for you. I think that's always a good thing. My friend, I'm 99.3%, so that's my. That's where my authority comes from.
I'll take your word for it.
So at any rate, let me start here by showing you a little context.
Oh, let me also just say I got about an hour.
Okay, great. Well, I'll just get into it then. Here it is. Not that it matters, but okay, whatever. So let's start here. Let's start with a little icebreaker here. I know we're both fans of Tim Pool.
Oh my gosh, so they have an hour. They have an hour to talk about serious shit, and he's gonna bring up something stupid. Get ready.
Okay. Let's just enjoy this image together. Tim Pool recently had a wedding, and can you see that? Did
he get married?
Well, I think he's attending a wedding.
Okay.
And he's very formally dressed, except he appears to be wearing a beanie.
I'm aware of his beanie attachment.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought this was a fine look for our good friend Tim Pool there. Very good.
Nice suit.
Yeah. So well, let me ask you this: what have you kind of like heard about me? Because I mean, I know that your colleagues have an opinion.
I gotta be honest with you. I have not heard much.
Damn, Sam Seder's so lucky he hasn't heard much, bro. Sam is so lucky he hasn't heard about all the dumb fucking drama and all the shit that Ethan has said that's so fucked up. Like, remember when he said, Aaron Bushnell, that guy that set himself on fire? Remember when Ethan Klein was like, "Oh, wow, you're really good at burning, guy. You're so good at burning." Like, because he was doing it for the Palestinians. Like, bro. He is so fucking hateful, dude.
And then
he's always like, I'm a comedian. You can't criticize me, bro. It's comedy, bro. No. That's that Joe Rogan shit. Get the fuck out of here. No, you can be criticized.
The only thing I really saw that came up in any of my mentions on Blue Sky, I'm also on Blue Sky, is just this issue about talking to me, and I had presumed that was it. But I don't, look, from my perspective, I'm not, and I know that there's been, you mentioned in the email that there's been a lot of grief that you have taken, and I know that other people have also taken grief on all sides of this. And the personal aspects of this, and I don't believe that people. I don't actively attempt to deplatform people. I don't think people should do that. I don't think people should be swatted, or
Remember, Ethan Klein deplatformed Frogan, Capri, all the boys from the Arabs podcast, all the people that were part of the Sabra Hummus shit. He got them all fucking canceled. Him and Destiny. Remember, he's doing that. Sam don't fuck with that. Ethan's about to be like, oh yeah, I don't do that. I don't do that type of stuff. Oh, me. Oh, the good boy.
Tried to be fired or whatever.
Or try to get Matt Lieb fired from Good Mythical Morning. Matt Lieb is the dude that has Bad Hasbara, the podcast Bad Hasbara. He tried to get Matt Lieb fired, bro.
Or have CPS sicked on them or any of that. I mean, I just don't think that's appropriate. I mean, I'm more interested in talking about my relationship to Zionism and my perspective on what Israel is doing and what is happening in Gaza. And
I totally agree. Let's just talk about the facts. Let me start by showing you this clip. So I've been actually talking about my feelings on the Israel-Gaza Palestinian dispute.
I've been talking about the Israel stuff months ago. Like, this is like a year ago old content. This is when I was saying the progressive stuff. Months ago, when I was with Hasan.
Situation for a long
Hasan
time. I lived in Israel for 5 years as well when I was with my wife early on. Here's my position right after October 7th. And you can tell me if you have any... if you have any comments on any of my positions here. But this was posted on... This was from our episode...
Show him all the shit you said since then, dude. Show him all the shit you said.
A few days after October 7th. Yeah. Liars and bad faith weirdos. So here's what I'll say about Israel. Okay? Listen. This isn't the first time I've said it. And I'll say it many more times. The cabinet is run by genocidal maniacs.
I wonder who is over here to the left. I wonder why they zoomed in so much.
Okay? They're led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal. Okay? He's made a coalition of the most radically conservative freaks that don't represent, by the way, the majority of Israelis. And they're hellbent on genocide, frankly, overtly. They've committed tons of war crimes in Gaza, including the killing of children, obviously, because Gaza is one of the most densely populated places in the world. 50% of the residents are under 18, so when you bomb a building, the chances that you're killing children is pretty much 100%. Okay? It's fucking barbaric. It's unacceptable. It's disgusting. I've seen videos, I saw videos of Palestinian dads holding his dead 5-year-old daughter. I mean, I don't need to watch this part because it just gets a little too emotional. But I mean, so that was my take right after October 7th. And obviously that was coming off the end of me being I'm an Israeli citizen. The morning of October 7th, me and my wife were up at 3 a.m. as families were calling into news stations from their safe houses, people being burned alive with their families being murdered while on the phone with news. So coming off of that emotional shock, right, was this was my reaction. Now, I don't know if there's something Zionist or pro-Israel I said there, but maybe I don't understand.
I mean, I think much of what you said was true. I'm not sure, frankly, if what we've seen Israel do in terms of Gaza is not broadly supported in Israel. I'm not seeing the body politic. I mean, I was doing a lot of interviews with Israeli reporters earlier in 2023 about the protests against what Netanyahu was doing with the judiciary. And there was a question as to whether Israelis would see that this autocracy that Netanyahu was attempting to sort of impose on the country wasn't an extension of what was happening in places like the West Bank and in Gaza in some fashion, and more so the West Bank at that time. And so I think it's hard to make an argument. And look, I would make it's not a perfect analogy as to what's happening in this country, but when you talk about the Israeli population not having a problem with what's going on in Gaza, I don't see a lot of evidence of that. There's certainly, I would imagine, a percentage of Israelis, and I know some of them, who think that Israel should stop its assault there. But I don't think I don't see a lot of evidence that a year and a half later, after you've said those things, that this is not the character of the vast majority of Israeli society. I mean, I'm not necessarily convinced that they are as aware. I mean, I've talked to people who have reported in the West Bank, and they said they would go from the West Bank into Israel, and the lack of awareness of what was happening in the West Bank by Israelis was shocking to them.
They have so much fucking propaganda. It's crazy. It's like a fascist state. They have all this propaganda.
And so, I can't say if the Israeli population had a full understanding of what was happening in Gaza that they wouldn't change their mind. But I don't see a lot of evidence of it.
So as you touched on, this was made basically before the war started. And I think that the unfortunate, really tragic outcome of the war is how much it's jaded and radicalized, I think, people in Israel. It's really, I think people in Israel feel like isolated. They feel like...
Yeah, but you guys did that to yourself. You guys have isolated yourself with all your war crimes. You guys are doing this to yourself. Israel's doing this to itself. Isolation.
I mean, the sentiment in Israel is basically that the world wants, the country to disappear. And and obviously, like, that's a much more nuanced conversation. But the feeling there has definitely radicalized a lot since the war started. It's gotten a lot worse.
And I think, I think that gets to it to some extent. I mean, you have this wholesale slaughter. I was looking up, we killed in Iraq, depending on what numbers you want to look at. But, I think it's safe to say directly hundreds of thousands of people. But even like the number of children that we killed in Iraq, I think has been surpassed by what's happened in Gaza. And I think one of the things that I find shocking is that the sense and look, I experienced this with family members, where the sense that there's a victimization, for instance, let's say on college campus of Jewish students, and I think that to look at what's going on, the totality of what's going on, and to perceive the victims of what's happening here to be the Israeli citizenry or Jews in this country, I think it just blows my mind. I mean,
two people can care about two things at once. Why should people?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
People who are uninvolved in the war, if they're being like victimized in a separate situation because of their Jewish identity, that's a problem, don't you think?
Oh, I do, but
you can care about two things. You can't be like, oh, these people are ridiculous for caring about anti-Semitism on college campuses because the war's happening. I mean, both we can care about two things.
100%.
And obviously, one is way worse, right? One is way worse.
But that's the point.
Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, bro.
One is way worse. And what's happening in Gaza?
Who should tolerate being discriminated against based on their identity? You know what I mean? Like, of course, who wouldn't react to that?
I don't think that people are. I don't think that people are being victimized. I mean, certainly, listen, anti-Semitism is real. It was real when I was a kid. There was many times I had pennies thrown at me growing up and playing basketball. I mean, there was a lot of. I've experienced anti-Semitism, but I put it in the context of like you're a parent, I'm a parent. If my kid is going through something very difficult, it's obviously difficult for me, but it's more difficult for them, and it's a question of prioritizing. These things. You can have two thoughts in your head at the same time, but to center oneself or to perceive that one's victimization is sufficient to ignore the.
I got to stop you because I don't know who's doing that.
Well, I mean, I just said like you just presented as the Israeli population feels like they're isolated and this and that.
There's two different separate conversations. There's like the American Jewry who's like, I have nothing to do with that place, and then the Israelis, right? So like when you're talking about
in terms of the way that you characterized the Israeli feeling, was that they feel isolated, et cetera, and I can understand that, but to not have the first thought of like we are committing, like you say, genocidal acts. And if people want to call it genocide, I don't, obviously it's got to be, it's a legal term, but I think that it's colloquially speaking, at the very least, it is a genocide.
Yeah.
And to not recognize that.
Preach.
That as the fundamental issue, the first issue, I think is blinkered. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it's a little gobsmacking to me.
Well, so I do agree with you that obviously in Israel, people, I think the problem, and just to say on a higher level, I agree with you. Like, obviously, the people in Israel compared to like what's on October 7th, they were victims. After everything that's happened, obviously, whatever they've suffered pales in comparison to the mass destruction and like wanton death of civilians in Gaza, and what's happening in the West Bank too. Lots of awful stuff. That being said, I think the problem with Israel, just to try to explain what's happening there, because I do agree with you, is just like the media apparatus and the feeling that they have there. It's like there's not a lot of space emotionally, and like even the information that they're consuming, I think that would allow them to have that kind of like self-realization. And like you said, a lot of Israelis don't know what's happening
there are some. I mean,
there are some, yeah, of course,
Haaretz, you know, we what was it in the fall? You had the publisher of Haaretz, you know, speaking out about what was going on there, and the paper was essentially, you know, a cutout, or there was an attempt by the government to basically shut them down on to some extent. I mean, so
so what's your explanation why Israelis don't care? It's not that they're evil, right?
Well, I think, look, there's, I'm sure that there is a mass, you know, sort of like a failure to deal with trauma. I think, but I think some of it is, frankly, is a racism. I think, you know, how can you explain, you know, how can I explain how I just watched a clip of people at a Trump rally chanting USA, USA, to watching a video of people being, you know, taken into that prison in El Salvador and having their head I mean, I don't know how I can explain that. So I don't know how I could explain how the Israelis are able to the extent that they can see what's going on in Gaza, have that reaction. But I know that it's wrong. And I think, you know, some of it undoubtedly is a racism. Some of it is, you know, maybe some type of mass failure to deal with trauma. I mean, I don't know all those. I think, you know, part of it, I think there's some of the makeup of, you know, immigrants to Israel over the past several decades. I'm sure all of that enters into it, and I'm not in a position to sort of like be able to psychoanalyze it beyond this sort of, you know, vague notions.
Sure.
But
yeah, and I
from
agree.
my perspective, it's gobsmacking, and you know, to me, it has shown, and you know, I never identified myself as a Zionist as a kid, or you know, through the years, and I never identified myself as an anti-Zionist. I don't think I, you know, I think it wasn't really until someone heard me articulate my perspective on this that they referred to me as anti-Zionist. And I have, you know, I don't really care one way or another how I'm labeled. But to me, it shows a failure of that system of government that Israel has. And it has failed both from a perspective of, you know, what I think some people had as a notion of Zionism in the 19th century. It has been a failure in terms of keeping Jews safe, frankly. It seems to have been a massive failure. And so I can't operate as someone who lives in Israel, but I can operate as someone who is an American in terms of like what we support, which is why I think we should end all aid. And as a Jew who sees my religion being used as what I perceive as a fig leaf for what Israelis or, you know, Zionists are doing. And so, I mean, that's where I'm coming from with this, that I don't know if there is a psychological state that can justify this. In fact, I don't think there is. And
nope,
so,
there ain't.
You know,
It's just an attempt to understand, not justify.
There's no justification for what the fuck Israel's doing.
I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, it is the way that it is, and so that's for a reason. And it's just trying to explain it. That's all. I agree with everything you're saying. But actually, one thing I want to pivot to and ask you about.
Do you think
it is the way it is, and it is for a reason? What the fuck does that mean?
we should cut all aid?
I agree with that. Like, it is the way that it is, and so that's for a reason. And it's just trying to explain it. That's all. I agree with everything you're saying. But actually, one thing I want to pivot to and ask you about.
Do you think that we should cut all aid to Israel?
I think that'd be justifiable. Yeah.
And
we're talking about like military aid and stuff. Yeah, for sure. Israel.
I mean,
Israel
all
can make
aid.
no bombs and shit.
All aid. All fucking aid, bro. All money, all aid. No contact with them. Fuck them. Let them go on their own.
Every
if they need, like, they don't need American military. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I think they do need it to do what they're doing, without a doubt. And
well, what I mean is they're not entitled to it, to say more accurately. Yeah. So yeah, I think military aid should be cut for sure until.
How as a Jew, and you know, I mean, obviously you have a different connection to Israel than I do, as you know, through your family and whatnot. and through having lived there. But as a Jew, I take such offense to what is being done ostensibly to protect me and my family and my ancestors and my progeny and all of it. It is. I mean, I think it's. I think the conflation of Zionism and Judaism is both not keeping Jews safe and is wrong at its core. And we can see what it's even doing in the context of this country, the way that it's enabled Trump and to attack universities and to attack law firms and whatever. And so I don't know. And if you agree with that, great. If not, I'm happy to discuss it with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. And part of the reason why, like, this chasm started between me and, you know, Hasan is very influential. So when he decides that somebody...
Here comes the Hasan talk. You can't get Hasan out of his fucking brain. Yo, Hasan fucked his brain. Literally.
...is an enemy of the movement for criticizing him, which is what I perceive happened, then it kind of becomes reality. For example, one of my criticisms of his is him not supporting Kamala Harris. Now, would she have stopped the war and been like a perfect dove? I don't know.
He did not say to not vote for her. This is all bullshit.
But I know she would have been better than Trump. I know that for sure. Trump's posting like this insane Riviera, Gaza, the Riviera with Trump hotels. I mean, that's and like he's sending the 20-pound bombs. He's telling Netanyahu, you have a blank check to do whatever you want. Now, like
it just came out that Biden didn't, did nothing to. I mean, listen, I think.
Well, I'm talking about Kamala.
I suspect that I suspect that she would not have had the same policies as Trump. But at the same time, I think that it was a massive failure, both on a real human level. Like it would have, I think, had she articulated anything even remotely close to what I would hope her difference would have been, I think it would have probably had implications in the election. But I think perhaps even more importantly, it would have maybe implicated the behavior of Israel. So, I mean, look, I chose to support Harris because I perceived her as the lesser of two evils. But
yeah, me too. And I think that that's an important distinction to make at a time like this. Yeah,
I can certainly understand how some people were just so repulsed by what was happening that it made it almost impossible for them to vote for Harris. I think I
understand why they didn't. I totally understand the perspective. Like, I'm so disillusioned with this administration, I can't support Kamala. But at the same time, like a hugely influential political streamer like Hasan, who has a huge influence on people, I think, and who's someone who was at the...
Bro, I watch Hasan and I voted for Kamala, bro. What are you talking about? He didn't tell people not to vote at all. He said vote for the lesser of evils, and he said that Kamala was not doing enough to get people's vote. That's all he was saying. That's all.
Who's very vocal about being pro-Palestine. I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to be like, I'm not voting for Kamala, or I'm not telling.
He's trying to get Sam Seder to criticize Hasan.
You who I voted for. I suspect he voted for Jill Stein personally, but either way, he hasn't said, and he wouldn't endorse her. Now, like,
he voted live on stream. Hasan voted live on stream. This motherfucker just brings shit up without even knowing anything. I think he voted for Jill Stein personally.
Abdication of responsibility to be like, I'm not voting for Kamala, or I'm not telling you who I voted for. I suspect he voted for Jill Stein personally, but either way, he hasn't said, and he wouldn't endorse her. Now, like, if you're just like a random protester or whatever, and like you're like, I'm so disgusted, I don't want to vote, that's fine. But if you're like a high-level political streamer, and basically you have the capacity to weigh like the lesser of two evils and what that means, I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to not make that call.
I mean, I certainly have been critical of people who, generally don't vote for the lesser of two evils. But I think, and certainly, in the run up to the 2016 election, I certainly that was my perspective. But again, what the Biden administration was doing was so horrific that her inability to signal that there would be any change, I think. Sometimes you have to take this at face value. And I think there would be certainly, definitely other things. You would not be assaulting the government like Trump is. But, I think probably this is the first election in as long as I've been doing this, and I think it's been 5 elections now. I mean, I'm old, that I couldn't really condemn someone from taking that position based upon what we were seeing. I mean, this is...
It's not just some random person. I do, and I'll tell you why. Kamala Harris wanted a ceasefire. She stated that. Trump said, finish them. I mean, let's be honest. Like, for someone
Biden
like Hasan,
said, I want a ceasefire.
I'm not voting for Biden. I'm not talking about Biden.
No, I understand, but we found out that Biden, in fact, did nothing to bring that about. So,
well,
like, you know,
you can talk about Biden. I'm talking about Kamala Harris. What she said.
I mean,
well, she's the vice president. I mean, at the end of the day, she doesn't really do that much, right?
No. But I'm talking about the candidate. Biden, as a president, said he wanted a ceasefire. She, as a candidate, said, I want a ceasefire.
Well, do you not? Even if you're like, I don't know how much I trust them. One's like, I want a ceasefire, and the other one is like, finish them.
Well, listen, I think it was certainly obvious to me that Trump was going to be worse. But I think, like, if you're trying to get the candidate to show some indication of this, I can understand that. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I would disagree with it. But
yeah, I get your point too. Like, ultimately, I understand why people wouldn't want to support them because of what they've seen, and like that, it feels like it
also shows a tremendous amount of just like electoral malfeasance on her part. I mean, they made an active choice, and I think you could have put that Palestinian lawmaker from Georgia on stage. They made an active choice to signal to whomever they were signaling that they weren't going to do anything. Now, I happen to believe that she would have been better on this than Trump, but they were making an active choice to do that. I mean, it was really electoral malfeasance on her part, in my opinion. But I don't know what the point of litigating this is per se. But
well, we're talking about kind of my criticisms of Hasan and how this schism started. Well, let me show you this.
I don't care.
Yeah,
about,
I know.
Honestly, I'm like
Let me show you this.
I don't care.
Honestly.
Yeah, you don't care. I know.
I don't care. I don't.
And why should you? I don't blame you. We talked about anti-Semitism, and you think that I don't want to put words in your mouth, right? But you seem to have conveyed that, compared to the destruction and everything happening, the genocide, the loss of life in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that obviously that's way more important. So let me show you an example of something. And again, I know you don't care about the drama. To me, this isn't drama. This is one of the biggest, most influential streamers spreading something that I think is really dangerous. And you can agree or disagree, but it's a short clip, but I'll show it to you. And you tell me what you think.
H3 subreddit.
This will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi.
True.
And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting.
Zionist, Nazis, and any other evil motherfucker should not even be able to be the local trash picker-upper, okay?
If they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
Now, by the way, he didn't misspeak. He doubled down on it yesterday. He said, no, I agree. That's what I think. Now, just to recap, he says, anyone that's had positive feelings at any point about the state of Israel is a neo-Nazi that's not fit to be a dog walker. Now, to me, that seems like extremely dangerous, dehumanizing language about what could arguably be 70% of the Jewish diaspora, and certainly probably people in your family.
I'll tell you, there's some hyperbole there, but
that's putting it mildly.
I mean, he says Zionism, and I'll tell you what I think is really...
Sorry, I got to correct you. He says Zionism, and then he says, if you had positive feelings about the state of Israel at any point in your life.
I got to tell you, if you look at what's happening right now, and you have positive feelings about Israel...
He said at any point in your life, Sam. Just to be clear about what he said.
Would I have said at any point in his life, someone's life? But I just think this is such a petty, like the idea
petty as
that
fuck.
We're going to police. Hold on, let me respond. You want me to respond to this?
No,
like I say, I don't care about this. But if you're going to force me to respond to it, what Israel is doing right now is so far beyond the idea that someone says any time in your life or not or whatnot. He's talking about Zionism, and frankly, I think it's very difficult for me to understand how someone could have positive feelings at this time. Now, you want to say in the past and what? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I will grant you at any time in your life that is too broad a step. But wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
But see, you go in and you're making this about anti-Semitism by doing this hopscotch about a poll that people had positive feelings that Jewish people do, and then therefore he is anti-Semitic. And honestly, that type of conflation, I think, is so dangerous and so disingenuous.
Dangerous, bro.
I mean, I don't want to get too passionate about this, but I will tell you something. I have had a guy who went to my bar mitzvah, my sister's bar mitzvah, my kid's bar mitzvah, sat at Passover with me 3 or 4 times, call my father and ask him if I'm anti-Semitic. Now, this is just that is just an example, an illustration of conflating what he's clearly talking about Zionism.
Yep.
Was it hyperbole to say any time in life, whatever? The fact of the matter is this conflation is dangerous for Jews. It is a fig leaf and a way of weaponizing anti-Semitism that has enabled Donald Trump to do the shit he's doing, that has enabled the slaughter of thousands upon thousands of children and women and men, for that matter. It is not keeping Israelis safe. And this type of conflation, Ethan, is what I find far more irresponsible, frankly, than the idea that he said positive any time. I mean, look, you do a show
Sam,
4 hours a day. He does a show 5 or, as far as I could tell, 15 hours a day. And to focus in on that one tiny clause.
This is not one tiny clip, Sam. Well, you don't know. This is a totality of behavior.
But you
and by the way, it's
up.
easy. And I appreciate that you can hand wave it away and say that it doesn't.
No, I'm not hand waving it away.
Well, you kind of are.
I'm saying this
you're saying it doesn't. You're saying actually I'm wrong for caring about it.
No, he's saying you're conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which is not true. Anti-Zionism is just you not liking a far-right ideology that's treating people like shit. That's it.
No, yes, in fact, I'm saying this conflation is incredibly dangerous. It is disingenuous.
I think it's dangerous to ignore what's being described as dehumanizing violent language for American Jews that have nothing to do with the war.
That is a complete mischaracterization of that.
It's not. He's not fit to be a dog walker.
He never says the word Jews.
He says a neo.
Listen.
You got him. Shut the fuck up, Ethan. He got you. He doesn't say Jew, you idiot. He says a Zionist.
Not fit to be a dog walker.
Zionist could be Christian. Joe Biden is a Zionist, guys. Joe Biden is a fucking Catholic, Irish-ass Zionist, dude. You don't need to be Jewish.
He never says the word Jew.
He says a neo.
Listen,
get fucked.
how many members of Kufi have positive feelings towards Israel? How many millions of members of Kufi, the Christian organization, have positive feelings for Jews? It is clearly not a function of their Judaism. It is not a function of their Judaism, and so it is not
describes
specifically.
Most Jews.
No.
Yes, it does, Sam.
It describes most Christian evangelicals, too.
It may do them, too, but it also describes 73% of Jews.
So that is not anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What do you call it when somebody's discriminating
You're
against...
just smearing people, you fucking idiot, Ethan. You're smearing people for no reason. You're fucking lying. You're being used like a fucking condom by the fucking Israeli government with their shitty-ass propaganda. You're being used like a fucking IDF condom, bro.
It's the vast majority of a racial or religious group, Sam.
I'm sorry. You want to look at evangelical Jews?
I don't care about evangelical people.
Okay, but I'm talking about the way you're constructing this.
I think
you can say the same thing about Christian evangelicals too. It is not anti-Semitism. It is not. It just isn't.
Like, taking one example in isolation, which is what we've done here.
Well, you're the one who gave it to me.
Yeah, well,
I don't even want to talk about it.
I disagree with you.
I'm using your example, and in that instance, that is not anti-Semitism.
Well, I disagree.
Conflation. Okay, well, that's our disagreement.
Yeah.
But I think that conflation is incredibly dangerous.
Well, I disagree as well.
It's dangerous for Jews.
I think
it's dangerous for this society.
Well, you're a dumb fuck, Ethan. Who cares? I don't care about what you agree
Frankly, I think it's dangerous to... What I perceive as hand-waving what's happening here. I know you said you aren't doing that.
I'm not hand-waving.
You're doing the opposite. You're endorsing...
Decades of thought about this.
So right, sure. But the point is, you're saying that this is not dangerous. How dare you care about this? I think it's dangerous
I'm not saying that at all.
I personally, I mean, Jewish people have a collective memory of trauma, Sam, and it starts a certain way. And it starts with people. It starts with dehumanizing language, like saying you're not fit to walk a dog. I mean, what are we doing here? It's irresponsible language.
He's not talking about Jews.
He's talking about 73% of Jewish people.
No, you said that.
No, that's a poll that's readily available.
No, you made that connection. He did not. Because we have millions upon millions of members of Kufi. We have millions upon millions in this country of evangelicals who also believe the same thing.
Does your dad
You cannot say it's anti-Semitism.
Could you describe
say it's anti-Semitism if you're also including millions upon millions, far more Christians than Jews.
Yeah, there are way more Christians.
Would you say that your father, who you mentioned, said something to you, that he's ever in his life had positive feelings about the state of Israel?
I've had positive feelings of Israel.
Well, does your dad have any positive feelings about it now? Not in terms of like I support them, but like I think
positive feelings. I went to Israel on.
Okay, good. Then you're a neo-Nazi, not fit to walk a dog. How do you feel about that?
No, that's you saying that.
That's literally what he said. I'll play it again.
That is you saying that, Ethan. That's not what he's saying. You fucking have Hasan's dick in your fucking brain, and you can't stop thinking about Hasan. Stop talking about Hasan.
I think like This will never happen, but in a totally just
Jesus
world,
Christ,
any kind
you
of
are a fucking loser.
regardless of your background, any kind of fucking
Oh
Zionist
my
tendency should be
God.
treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi. And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting if they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
Another thing he's doing, by the way, and Hasan is does it.
Listen,
He
you can
plays
say that
around with
that's
the
a wrong
term
thing to do.
Zionists, right?
You can say that's a wrong thing to say, but he's not talking about Jews. He's talking about people who have exhibited these positive feelings, and that includes millions upon millions of Christians. More Christians.
Okay, well, listen,
than
I don't think
Jews
they're
exist in the
neo-Nazis,
world.
not fit to walk dogs, either. I think it's insane language.
Listen,
That's fine. Why the Nazi shouldn't be able to do anything? They should be like re-educated. Are you pro-Nazi, Ethan? What the fuck is wrong with you?
you don't want to tell me that you have never engaged in hyperbole. You and I both are in this business, and we do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I just think that
It's listen. You can say
I
it's
just
an
think that,
inappropriate thing
like,
to say. It's an unfair thing to say.
I just think like
but
Arabs
it's
that
not
support Israel aren't
anti-Semitism.
fit to walk a dog.
It is not anti-Semitism.
Okay, well, we're
And
at
you
an
can say
impasse
that
on this one.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean.
Well, you're just fucking wrong, Ethan. You're fucking wrong. You're insane. You're a Zionist. That's what makes you a Zionist. You're fucking broken in the brain. Hasan fucked your brain so hard. He left a hole, a really big hole right through the middle.
Anyway, another thing he does is he says Zionist tendencies, and he's someone that plays around with Zionism. He calls me a Zionist, and again, I know we're arguing here about semantics of what Hasan said, but I don't think that you could accurately characterize me as that, as it's used colloquially. You don't know, right? But he's saying Zionist tendencies. What does that mean?
Fucking Trump is doing.
What's a Zionist tendency?
It's similar shit. He's labeling Mexican
I
cartel
don't know.
shit as
Yeah.
terrorists.
Yeah, you're going to talk to him
Anybody's
on
now
Friday. You can
fucking
ask him what a
cartel.
Zionist tendency is.
He's saying Zionist tendencies. What does that mean? What's a
What
Zionist
is-
tendency?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to talk to him on Friday. You can ask him what a Zionist tendency is. I
Sure.
suppose I would guess. And, like I've looked at polls too, where, people have various different understandings of what Zionism is. But I think it is my guess.
Listen to him.
And I don't know what he was thinking specifically, but the notion of an ethno-state that engages and allows whatever in the name of Zionism allows for this mass slaughter.
Yep.
I think is horrific.
Yep.
Sure, me too.
Okay. I mean, then I think we the three of us agree on that regard.
Yeah, I think we're so. Another thing is like to take it even further. I mean, Hasan pretty much like openly
Well, let's not
supports
talk
Hamas.
about Hasan. Let's talk about this.
Sure. I mean, what do you want to ask
Well,
me?
I mean, if you
Yo,
want,
he can't stop talking about Hasan, bro. Sam Cedar's even like, yo, let's get off the Hasan topic. I'm sorry.
to ask me about, I mean,
Well, let me.
don't
I have
any.
a,
I'm not.
yeah. I have a list of things that.
feelings, but if you want to talk about Hamas, I mean, I think look.
Well, how do you feel about Hamas?
I feel that Hamas, people can perceive it as a liberation organization. We call them terrorists in this country. We call the
What
ANC
do you think about
terrorists.
them, Sam?
Listen, I think
He's trying to get Sam to say, I love Hamas. I love Hamas.
there are parts, I would imagine, of
trying to get
Hamas
Sam
that
to
have
say
done
that.
good for the people in Gaza, and I think they have done bad things. But I sort of feel, I guess, ultimately probably like Ehud Barak when he said that were I Palestinian and I was living in Gaza, that it would be likely that I would join Hamas. I mean, that's what Ehud Barak said on multiple occasions. And I think that is very, that is an understanding of human nature.
That
when
you're
you
not
are the
affording
subject-
Israelis, by the way, just to point out an inconsistency there.
How so?
Well, you're not. You're like I refuse to understand human nature and their reaction. It's just evil, and I don't know how to explain it.
I didn't use the word evil.
Right. I'm inferring because I asked you if you think they're evil, and you didn't really answer that.
Listen,
You
I
avoided.
don't know what Gazans felt on October 8th, but toward Hamas. But I can tell you that we have there is a long history of terrorist organizations or so-called terrorist organizations like the ANC or the IRA,
Yep.
even the PLO,
Now, Sam, I gotta-
that ultimately become political organizations.
I think the
And
comparison to
when you-
Hamas to what happened in South Africa is insanely disingenuous, and I personally hate when people.
That
do
is not true, bro. This guy's fucking stupid as fuck.
I mean, Mandela didn't think so.
Well, Mandela did think
Exactly.
so. He explicitly stated that
Nuh-uh.
he avoided committing violence on the
That
city.
is not true, bro. Mandela literally rejected getting out of prison. They offered him, yo, we'll get you out of prison if you say that like violence is bad. And Mandela was like, fuck no, I'll stay in prison.
history because it would make reunification impossible.
That's not
That's
true.
something
I
he
mean,
said.
that is
I
not
think you
true.
can say
In the
that
totality-
technically speaking, listen,
In the
technically speaking,
by the way, Sam, in
if
the
you wanna make
totality of their campaign, I think under 200 civilians died, and the people who did kill civilians were almost all
Probably
held
not.
accountable
Nope.
for what they
Bullshit.
did.
Not true.
That's a difference.
Don't believe
Sam.
nothing this motherfucker
Well,
says.
I mean, I can tell you that
A significant difference.
Well, it is a significant difference. I mean, I imagine many of those people who committed atrocities on October 7th are dead now. And, you know, so
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, that's accountability.
Being
But,
killed? Okay.
but
I mean being held accountable by the party that they're presumably doing the violence on behalf. Like,
you're saying the entire ANC was held accountable?
no, I was saying Nelson Mandela's party, if someone killed a civilian, they would hold them accountable. They would charge them. They would disavow their actions.
The ANC did.
Yes.
Well, the IRA was bombing places in England and throughout Ireland. I mean, we have even the Irgun or the Stern Gang.
Yup.
When they killed, over 100 villagers in 1948. I mean, the history is full of examples of organizations that commit terrorist acts. Now,
people
I will
say-
tell you,
people look at South
personally,
Africa-
I do not condone the killing of civilians, which is why obviously I'm upset about what Israel is doing.
Right.
Sure.
And
The part that I don't like about
considered
people,
horrific.
people say, I feel like people sweep for Hamas by saying, like, what do you expect, right? But the truth is that people use South Africa as an example, but what South Africa shows is that you don't need to commit a violent war against civilians to liberate yourself.
Well, I mean, listen, we had for a year, we had the Great March of Return, where, Sinwar himself was involved in that. There was Palestinians marching on a regular basis over the course of the year. I don't know how many it was, 50 or whatever, that were innocent people who went there, and snipers are shooting down unarmed civilians. And
Yup.
so, time and time again, and over the course of the 20 years that I've been professionally, covering this, my attitude towards Israel's willingness to have peace has changed, and my understanding of it has changed. And I can only imagine how more intense that feeling is to be living in a place that is, functionally like, the Warsaw Ghetto, insofar as, like, you don't have access to resources, you have 50% unemployment, the apartheid that is taking place in terms of the West Bank. I mean,
I agree with those characterizations, by the way, Sam. Just to say.
But I can't imagine that my response wouldn't be to pick up a weapon.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
It's not really working out.
Well, it's
What the fuck does that mean?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what
It's
to
not really working out.
Imagine the fucking the Jews under Nazi Germany breaking out of the Warsaw Ghetto, right? And then, like, they're all getting killed and shit. They're dying and shit. Ethan's like, okay, it didn't work out. All right, good luck. It didn't work out, guys. Y'all fucking suck. Y'all gotta get good, bro. I'm on the other side. I'm with the Nazi, bro. Y'all can't escape. Ah! That's literally Ethan, bro. Fucking fascist.
none of
piece
it's working
shit.
out, is
No,
it? I
not
mean,
really
you have
much
the
at all.
fascist,
Not
greatest,
really
what
much at
is
all.
called the greatest attack on Israelis in 75 years. The notion of Zionism and the way that Israel is organized as a society is not protecting Jews.
Well-
It's not protecting Israelis. It's not protecting Jews worldwide. It is, there may have been a time where Zionism and there were certainly proponents of Zionism in the early 20th century, in the late 19th century, where there was a notion of a multi-ethnic democracy that fell by the wayside. Folks like Hannah Arendt and Einstein, left the Zionist Congress, and what it has evolved into is, I think, a nightmare for everyone involved. And so, I don't know how I would react in that type of miseration, frankly.
Well, can I ask you,
But again,
what are your-
Ehud Barak said that he would pick up a weapon were he one of them. And
That's fine.
he's far closer to the conflict than I am.
I'm not saying I don't understand why people pick up weapons, right? So let me ask you this: what do you think about October 7th attack?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrific.
And this was like a military action by Hamas to what end?
I mean, I suspect. I mean, I don't know what the strategy was. I mean, they attacked 2 military bases. I don't know if they were aware of that the dance.
The Nova rave.
Yeah, I don't know if they knew that rave was happening. I suspect it was to derail the Abraham Accords, which
I think they definitely knew that Israel had half of its fucking army in the West Bank, like fucking helping settlers destroy settlements. So that's why the response took a little long for Israel to actually like help. But I mean, besides the fact that like Israel had helicopters like bombing the shit out of like their own citizens and stuff, they do that a lot. They do like fucking friendly fire, dude. It's so fucked up.
We're going to leave the Palestinians out of the equation, where an authoritarian
you leave out that they
state.
attacked kibbutzim, by the way.
No, yes, of course they did. But I'm saying that they, I don't
Bro,
know.
he didn't leave it out on purpose. He just like forgot. Like you're acting like he's doing like you left it out. Why did you leave this out? Talk about it.
Know what the strategy was on their part.
So what do you think? Like, would you expect the response of Israel would be to that?
I had no doubt on that day that Israel was going to respond.
Go insane.
I mean,
yeah, right. It was going to be horrific. We all knew.
Yes, but I think I think the lack of proportionality was just beyond, frankly. And I was aware that this was going to be a horror show, but I don't think I had the level of awareness of what they would do to go in and literally level it, destroy what is it, 90% of the structures in Palestine, bomb hospitals. That they would use.
Well, Hamas did know that because that's why they attacked.
Food as a weapon.
I'm more interested in like the justification for what they're doing.
Probably took hostages with the idea that they would be able to negotiate.
I understand why they took hostages. I don't understand why they took children and elderly.
I believe that they probably. I mean, this is
children and elderly.
What is this fucking smile, bro? Why are you smiling like that? You fucking psychopath, dude. Are you acting like that's a gotcha? Like you are literally acting like Sam Seder is like a pro-Hamas dude. Like you are such a fucking bro. I need this picture. Let me see, dude. So fucking creepy, dude. Oh my god. So fucking creepy. I love it. Bam. This could be a good thumbnail. Perfect, dude. Perfect. How do I save this beautiful image? Desktop.
Be able to negotiate.
I understand why they took hostages. I don't understand why they took children and elderly.
I believe that they probably. I mean, this is all conjecture on my part. That they would be able to trade them as a way to inhibit Israel's doing what they're doing, and I don't know if they could have even imagined that. I'm not going to. I'm not going to endorse Hamas's strategy here.
Well, I'm just trying to flesh it out here because this is what I'm getting to is Hamas. I think they knew that this was the reaction that would happen. You know?
I can't imagine that they assumed that there would be this level of destruction.
I mean, that's why they hate Israel. I don't think they underestimate how violent the IDF can be. You know what I mean? That's why they attacked.
I certainly underestimated that they would go this far. I
didn't think they go this far, but
bomb hospitals and shoot EMPs and have rules of engagement like this. I mean, and I think Hamas is certainly up to criticism for their strategy here. If
that's an understatement.
Well, I mean, if that's the
well, I mean, they're a terrorist organization that intentionally antagonized like the IDF to come mass slaughter their.
That intentionally antagonized the IDF, bro. This is like a fucking like a rapist. Like when a fucking rapist is like, why were you wearing that red dress? Why were you wearing your lipstick like that and looking all sexy? You made me rape. You made me do it. You made me do it. That is literally what Ethan is saying. He's saying Hasan made Israel do the genocide. Like, what the fuck? You fucking insane Zionist.
It's an understatement.
Well, I mean, if that's the
well, I mean, they're a terrorist organization that intentionally antagonized like the IDF to come mass slaughter their civilians.
I think that if they overestimated whether Israel cared about the hostages, without a doubt. I mean, there's I don't know that there would be anybody who would make a case that this was their plan have Israel respond in this way. That's absurd.
Well, and the same is true of, like, I guess Israelis feel the same way. Like, it was totally unprecedented, what happened. So maybe they didn't think that their mission would be as successful as it was. On the other hand,
I have no doubt that they did not think that they would that they would have been able to overrun that. I mean, I think we were told that the technology of Israel's defense, et cetera, was perfect and something we should emulate in this country. I mean, Trump was all talking about that. So I have no doubt that Hamas overestimated
or overestimate the IDF. Yeah, I got you.
What they would be able to, what kind of destruction they would wreak, and they underestimated the violence that Israel would perpetrate on Gaza. I don't know that anyone could have imagined that Israel would have engaged in this level of destruction and immiseration and bombing churches and bombing hospitals and blowing up universities and destroying the infrastructure.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost beyond belief.
So one thing that when I was talking to Hasan, and I'm just going to talk about his point. This is about him personally. When I asked him, because this is obviously the $1 million question, right? By the way, just there's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza.
So fucking what? Like, they just don't have the money to build that shit. Or, like, maybe they don't have the time to build it while they're being blown up by Israel. And also, Israel has bunker-busting 2,000-pound bombs. You think a fucking little-ass bomb shelter is gonna survive a 2,000-pound bunker-busting bomb? Ethan Klein? If Hamas bombed Israel with the 2,000-pound bunker-busting bombs, any shelter wouldn't be standing. No bunker, no nothing. Nothing would be left.
Just there's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza.
There's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I just think that's interesting. It's pretty fucked up, don't you think?
Bro, a 2,000-pound bomb is not gonna save you in a little bunker shelter. I'm sorry. That's the dumbest fucking gotcha argument I've ever heard, bro.
Public bomb shelter in Gaza?
Even Sam Cedar's confused.
Okay.
I just think that's interesting. It's pretty fucked up, don't you think?
He's like, their government's so mean. They don't even take care of their people. They don't build them bomb shelters that would not withstand the mighty force of Israel's bombs anyway. It's like, okay.
Do I think it's fucked up?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand the point. Like,
well, I mean,
do you think anything would be standing anymore?
Well, bomb shelters are underground. I mean, they would definitely be a lot.
But a 2,000-pound bomb is meant to go through the fucking bomb shelter, you fucking idiot. And those are the bombs that Israel's using, you fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. You fucking literal piece of trash, dumb fuck, garbage human being, Zionist trash. Idiot.
Well, I've seen what happened to tunnels under hospitals.
Your statement is, so you say there were tunnels under hospitals.
Israel built the ones under the the first one that they went into. They built it when they were occupying Gaza.
Are you right? That's true of that one. But I mean, they have a vast tunnel.
And then they were like, "Look what Hamas built. Hamas built these hospitals. These tunnels under the hospitals. Look, Hamas built it." And it turns out Israel built it. It's like they're fucking liars, bro. Their whole fucking military is fucking shitty. I fucking hate it.
Obviously, as everybody knows. But I don't care. I don't want to get into the weeds on this. The $1 million question is like, what can we do? Now, it's obviously insanely difficult
as
to say.
Americans, I think we can stop aid immediately. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen under Trump.
I'm in favor of that, by the way.
Okay. I mean, good.
I mean, I think
we should call for.
He wants a cookie. He wants a cookie every time Sam Cedar says that. He's like, "Oh, I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of that." Except for not conflating anti-Semitism with Zionism, with anti-Zionism. I won't do that, but everything else I will agree with you, Ethan. I mean, Sam.
For all aid to be ceased, and I think we should stop protecting them in the UN.
What should have Israel done on October 8th, I guess? Like, what would have been an appropriate response for their government?
I mean,
without saying not this.
What should they have done on October 8th? I mean, I think that there is hitting strategic sites to attempt to take out leadership. They should have. But let's not, like, to
Well, the
look at
leadership
that
was
moment,
underground.
Yeah, to look at that, that moment in history, like maybe it was.
I disagree because they had to do something.
Listen, maybe in that moment, they had to go in and bomb or whatever they do. I think that any action that they would have taken at that point, frankly, was a function of literally decades of oppressing people and attempting to bring this to an eventuality.
Right.
I mean, this was.
And so what should they have done?
Ages ago? Well, I mean,
You're avoiding, yeah.
Okay,
You're avoiding the question.
Has begun empowering Palestinians in the West Bank. They should have done
This is
the
my
same.
favorite answer,
Okay.
Sam. You're saying that this is what Hasan told me. They should disband their government and lift the borders in response to the worst terrorist attack that's ever happened.
I think honestly, when you see that your policies have failed, but I don't think this
You
was their
actually don't believe
agenda.
that that's a real thing, though. I'm
Right.
interested in having like a real conversation. You can't like live in a fairy tale land where, in response to the worst military or terrorist attack of all time, Israel, who's already, as you state, like genocidal and racist and all these terrible things, is going to lift their borders and disband their.
You force them to do it. You force it on them, bro. When a kid needs medicine, they don't like the medicine. You gotta force it on them. You don't let the kid say, "No, I don't want to. I'm just gonna go eat Doritos." No, you force it on them like a little petulant child.
Oh, wait a second. You're asking me what
Give
they
them the
should have
medicine.
done, and that's different.
No, in a
from what I
realistic way, not
expect
in a
them to
fairy
do.
tale, Sam.
Well, listen, there is no realistic thing. Their agenda has been, it has been quite clear. Their agenda has been, since Ariel Sharon walked on the Temple Mount and tried to scuttle peace talks, the agenda since the assassination of Rabin by arch Zionists in Israel, the agenda has been to bring about this moment. There is no doubt about it. The annihilation of the Palestinian people has been an agenda in Israel for far too long. So from the perspective, it's anything I say is fantastical relative to what they would actually do. Anything.
There's nothing they could have done
anything.
that because of the situation, anything
I'm
they would have
saying
done
that
would have
this
been.
was, there was no plan that on this day they were going to do this. But if you go back 10 or 15 years ago and look into Bibi Netanyahu's brain, the idea that this is ultimately going to happen was definitely the agenda.
What, in terms of like
Find a
attacking
way,
Gaza or inciting an attack?
I would imagine both, frankly. But to find a way
kind of-
to eliminate the Palestinians, this has been the agenda of at one time what I think was a smaller segment of the Israeli body politic, and I think has increasingly become an even larger a portion of the Israeli politic. So I mean, anything I say in terms of should is fantastical. Anything.
So yeah, okay. I mean, so this is like I understand where you're coming from, right? Like
There was an opportunity for a ceasefire that was called in November, in December. They could have held a ceasefire at any point, and the amount of killing would have been far less. They could have done that. They could have ended it after a week.
I mean, Hamas could have ended the war anytime too.
How could have Hamas ended the
By
war?
by releasing the hostages?
No, listen. Israel has said time and time again that the release of the hostages is not going to end their assault on Gaza. They have said this over
I don't believe
and
that's
over and over.
I haven't
They
seen
have
those
said-
statements. I've seen the opposite. I believe that
Really? You really haven't seen those
Well,
statements?
No, I haven't. I'll review them. I mean, it
I
depends
think you
when.
should.
No, I haven't. I'll review them. Never. I'll never review that shit. That's what Ethan's thinking.
It depends when they were made too, right? Like,
They could have
what's in response
no,
to?
at any time. At any time, they could have done that.
What has Hamas done to end the war?
Hamas offered
What have
the
they done to end
hostages
the war?
early on to say Hamas offered all the hostages in agreement in response to Israel not coming into Gaza. I mean, there's just to
not
defend
true.
Israel's actions
That didn't happen
as
either.
being inevitable. Like, when do you think they should have ended it? When do you think they should have ended it?
So who have ended what?
You've asked me the question, what should have Israel done? You
Yeah.
tell me what they should have done. Do you think what they've done is right?
Well, I've clearly stated no, Sam.
Okay, so tell me what they should have done.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, hindsight is.
Here comes Ethan's brain. He's on the pressure cooker. He's on the pressure cooker right now. He's in the hot seat. Here comes him breaking down slowly.
Is a beautiful thing, but in my opinion, like you said, I think some more specific strikes. I think more moving slowly because as you
So do the genocide slower. Do the genocide slower. More precise strikes. Okay.
kind of pointed out but didn't really acknowledge.
When
is
do you
that
think they should have ended?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the leadership is obviously underground. So it's going to be a long mission of trying to get them. It's going to be a difficult mission. But I think militarily,
It's the leadership on the ground because they killed Yahya Sinwar on top of the ground. So here comes Ethan's dumb fuck brain again.
long mission of trying to get them. It's going to be a difficult
IDF
mission.
propaganda.
But I think militarily, they probably have some obligation to their citizenry, at the very least, to like take out where the there's. But we're ignoring the fact that missiles are being shot into Israel nonstop. And I know you're going to say,
my God.
Iron Dome stops most of them, which is true. But at the same time, I mean, a country needs to respond to that. They can't just allow missiles to be shot in.
Tell me the non-fantastical version of what they should have done. Should have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks. How many Hamas leaders? How many members of Hamas should they have killed before they leave? Because we know that Blinken said on his way out that virtually every Hamas member of Hamas that they've killed has probably been replaced by someone who's lost a family member or an entire family or whatnot. So you tell me, Ethan, if you're the one with the sensical perspective on this, and mine is fantastical, what should they have done that would have been appropriate in your mind?
Yeah. So besides like special operations and stuff, I think it would have been a good idea to, I think there's a space where they could like try to find peace partners in Gaza before just destroying the whole thing. Like, obviously they approached it completely wrong, right? But there are ways, I think, that could have happened that are realistic, like trying to forge some kind of peace partner, some kind of alliance, some kind of international
all those
coalition.
People were marching. They were marching. They were marching in the Great March of Return, week after week after week.
Sam, was there Hamas activity at the Great March?
Sinwar was marching. Sinwar was marching with them.
Were people attacking the border wall?
No.
During the Great March of Return, the first dozens of these things before the snipers, no, they weren't. So there were the people for peace.
And Israel killed them all.
There was Hamas activity. They were attacking the fence. They were like trying to cross the border.
They were
but not militants. Militants were trying to cross the border.
You're telling me that in the first dozen of these marches, there were people attacking the fence?
Correct.
Okay.
But I mean, again.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, again.
He's lying. He's just lying.
I think that there's a way for Israel to try. I think they can obviously pursue peace. The way that they're doing it is impossible, right? Like, it's fucked up. It's insane. It's genocidal. It's horrific.
They're not pursuing peace.
I'm not saying. I'm saying the opposite,
I don't
Sam.
think Israel is.
Well, you
pursuing
asked me
peace.
what should they have done. I mean, obviously they're not pursuing peace. I agree with you. Like, quite the opposite. That's not what they're doing. But I'm saying there could have been a path, although it's not.
He just said the way they're pursuing peace is not going to work. And then Sam Seder says they're not pursuing peace, and now he's like, "Oh, I agree with you. They're not pursuing peace."
It's. I think. Unfortunately, I think their response was inevitable based on everything that happened.
You think it was inevitable that they would kill these many people and they would use food supplies as a weapon, that they would have leveled hospitals and universities and 80-90% of the homes? I mean, how
I don't know to what extent,
Whoa! What face? Look at his face.
80-90% of the homes? I mean,
Whoa! What the fuck? That's a genocide face, bro. That's a genocide face.
Universities and 80-90% of the homes?
Let's see.
I mean...
Oh! Hey, you never know. You never know what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, man. You gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. I'm sorry. Genocide here, genocide there. Hey, what's a genocide? What's easy, eh?
How in universities and 80-90% of the homes? I mean, how
I don't know to what extent, but like a huge response was that.
That's what makes you a fucking Zionist, you scumbag.
Definitely
that
inevitable.
fucking
I'm not
face.
justifying it, Sam. You asked me a question. I'm answering it. You're putting
but
this on me like I'm saying.
No, I'm just saying inevitability. I wonder what you must think of an Israeli body politic where this level of atrocity is inevitable.
Well, you described your and Hamas's understanding of the IDF. I wouldn't say that. I can't say to what extent, but you agree that a huge response was inevitable.
I listen. I believe a response that was inevitable by Israel, and that is because I have a much more theoretically jaded view of that country and their agenda, I think, than you. But like to expect that what they've done is inevitable.
To what? Well, Sam,
I just wonder like what it is that you think is in that body politic. Like, listen, like I don't think it's inevitable. Just to use an example in this country, I don't think that it's inevitable that we are going to be deporting and disappearing immigrants in this country. I think it's possible, but my perspective on America is still too optimistic to think that's inevitable. I can't even imagine what I would think would be inevitable. And I think, listen, our invasion of Iraq and the complete lack of caring, and the only thing that would even mitigate that is there were no images coming out of Iraq, or very few, and certainly I was exposing them more than the American population writ large. But to perceive what we did in Iraq as inevitable.
It's a different situation. That's completely, that was completely unpredictable. But we kind of touched on it. And again, to what end this even matters is it doesn't ultimately. But Hamas knew that they were going to bomb the fuck out of Gaza.
Listen, I would imagine Hamas thought there was going to be a response, but they wouldn't have taken hostages if they thought that they couldn't use those hostages.
Of course, they thought they could. I don't deny that. Yeah.
Of deterring Israel from entering, and that was a miscalculation on their part. They presumed that Israel was more interested in those hostages, I think, than they had assumed.
Well, and that's part of what a lot of the civil unrest in Israel is about, is that a lot of people do care about the hostages and think that the government needs to stop the war and focus on getting the hostages back and not killing innocent civilians. So that
I wonder about that last part, but
which part?
The part about the killing of innocent civilians. I think that
I said that's what they're doing.
No. I'm saying I wonder if the Israeli body politic.
Oh, you think the Israelis want civilians to die?
Yeah,
I think the Israelis.
They don't care.
Obviously not all Israelis, but I think that
a large amount of them don't give a shit.
Enough of Israelis to maintain this government believe
a large amount of them don't care about Muslims or Arabs or fucking human life. I don't understand. It was fucked up.
That Palestinians in Gaza, that their lives have no value, that they are all future enemies. That they that they all represent a threat to Israel, and I think that's I think that's a twisted perspective.
Just so you know, there were massive demonstrations in Israel, tens of thousands of people in a country that's relatively small. So I think characterizing like the majority of the public as wanting to kill civilians is a little sick, personally. But it's. I guess you can say whatever you want.
I'm basing this on conversations with Israeli reporters that there does not seem to be in Israel a majority, at the very least, of people who are concerned about the fate of the Palestinians in Gaza. Certainly, they want hostages, and again, not all Israelis. But look, I can make analogous assessments of the United States at various times about things that reflect poorly on our national body politic as well. But the proof is in the pudding.
Can I tell you something? 300,000 protesters in Tel Aviv, 200,000 in the rest of the country. That's 500,000 people out in the street protesting the government of a country that has like 6 million or 5 million in the.
Are you talking about the protests about the judiciary?
I'm talking about to release the hostages.
Okay, to release the hostages.
Yeah.
That's a nice song.
To stop, ceasefire. Ceasefire, Sam. That's what that means.
They were
500,000.
They were calling for a ceasefire, or they were calling for a release of the hostages.
Well, what's the point of telling Hamas to release the hostages? Yeah, of course it's a ceasefire, Sam.
Well, but Israel has, and I know, I'll look this up.
Deal with this.
I don't have much time.
Israel.
Wait. Let's look this up and see how many times the Israeli government has said return of the hostages will not end.
Sam, I'm responding to you saying the majority of Israelis want civilians to die. 500,000 people came to the street for a ceasefire of a country of 5 million, Sam. That's 10%.
Israel just broke the latest ceasefire. Okay, where is the political response from the Israeli people? I mean, the idea that Gazans can be held responsible for an election that happened 18 years ago.
Sam, you said the majority of Israelis want civilians to die.
I think the majority of Israelis do not have a problem with what's going on in Gaza. That is my opinion.
I think that unfortunately might be true to the extent that they've gotten.
Well, then we agree.
They've gotten much more radical. Unfortunately, tragically, everybody's been a lot more radicalized since October 7th. And that's tragic. I agree. I think people in Israel are jaded and they are cynical and they don't care, like you said, and I think it's tragic.
Yes. Well, that's what my contention was. I mean, I'm looking at something from May.
I wouldn't say most of them want to kill civilians, though.
Well, I think that they don't.
And I wouldn't say that there isn't a sizable portion of of Israeli citizenry that want a ceasefire. When 500,000 people, Sam, marched out on the street of a country of 5 million for a ceasefire.
500,000 ain't shit.
This Pew research, 39% say Israel's military response against Hamas in Gaza has been about right. 34% say not gone far enough.
Sure.
Now, granted, that was in May of this past year, so maybe that's changed. I would hope, but that's all the most recent
horrible.
data. I have.
Yeah, no, I know that the sentiment
40% last year said that Israelis should govern the Gaza Strip.
I know that people.
I don't know what's left now.
Yeah, I agree. It's tragic what's happened, because I agree with you that they've become jaded and they've become very comfortable with the idea of violence happening.
They become fascist
there in general, right? And I think it sucks. I think and sucks is an understatement. I think it's tragic, and like I don't know what. Truthfully, the situation is so fucked up that like it just feels hopeless sometimes, but.
It certainly does. But in the meantime, in this country, and we may not have the opportunity for a while, but we should cease all aid to Israel. We should stop protecting them in the UN. We should stop trying to pressure the ICJ and the ICC, and that's
well, incidentally, I agree with all those things too. I think that
I agree with everything, incidentally, Ethan. Those are my real beliefs. What a fucking liar, dude.
it's the most we can do as a country to try to stop the war, and it's something that we should be doing. And I think Kamala Harris would have been a lot more likely to do something on that front. Certain
we won't know.
We can't know, and that's the great thing.
Well, listen, I appreciate the time. I gotta go because I'm supposed to have dinner for my child. But,
well, I'll say this. This was way more combative than I expected. Ultimately, though, I don't think that what do we disagree on? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. Maybe I see too much good.
I didn't disagree with anything, Ethan. Besides, I think it's okay to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, Ethan. I think that's okay, and I think you're wrong on that, Sam. But besides that, what do we disagree on? Do we disagree? Do we need to disagree on anything? Do we need to do? Other people do.
Good in the Israeli population. I mean, I don't know what's ultimately the disagreements here.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not. It's largely, in my mind, impossible to really fully assess. I mean, yes, there was a protest last year, 500,000 people who wanted the hostages back. And the
ceasefire.
I don't know if there's been. Well, they wanted the hostages back. I don't know.
It's not a magic wand. It's a ceasefire.
Yeah, and they got a ceasefire, and then the Israeli government broke it, and they.
Well, so hold on. Our disagreements is that I'm too optimistic about the Israeli citizenry.
You're too Zionist.
I'm not here to adjudicate what.
I'm just trying to summarize our conversation. That's all.
Well, I mean, you summarize for you. I'll summarize for me.
He's smart.
I think,
he knows.
It is what it is. And I think I don't remember this conversation. We can put into AI and have it summarize it, but I'll
do that for you, and I'll let you know what it says.
All right,
we'll leave it to the robots.
Okay.
Sam, I do appreciate you calling in. I do value your input on all this, and I appreciate the conversation. I think it's good to have conversations like this, like open and honest, even if they're combative. And I think ultimately on the larger points we agree, but we managed to find things to fight about anyway. And that's what two Jews do, isn't it, Sam?
That happens. That's my understanding. Appreciate it. All right, take it easy, man.
Have a great time with your children at dinner there. Enjoy.
Thanks, I will. All
Bye.
right, you too. Bye.
Let's see what Ethan says.
That was way different than I thought it was going to be.
They're sad.
But okay.
I thought it was interesting. I enjoyed that as a watcher.
Was I owned?
I
Yeah.
don't think you were owned.
You
I
were
don't think anybody
fucking-
was owned. I
you
think
were
it was two
destroyed.
people that are highly opinionated,
You were destroyed.
hashing it out.
You pay these people to suck your dick, basically. You were destroyed. Shut up.
I think, I personally like when people do that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well,
I don't get turned off by the combativeness.
So right.
Maybe it's that's the
People
half.
get squeamish
That's the
on
half
this
Jewish
issue.
part of
Yeah.
me.
But the truthfully is like, again, on the larger points, we agree. That's why I take cross with this issue of being like, he's a genocide supporter. He's a fucking baby killer and all this insane. He goes, Sam, you never heard of hyperbole? Yeah, I've heard of hyperbole. It's fuck. Is that
You're the king of hyperbole.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, is my downfall that I have too much faith or I have too much optimism in the Israeli citizenry? Maybe. I guess that's where we differ. That seemed to be where we are differing the most. I don't know.
I think you're right to identify that as yeah. And I mean, Sam is older, and he's in his 50s or something, and so maybe he's just more jaded.
Yeah, he definitely is more jaded. There's no question about that, and rightfully so, right? Rightfully so.
But yeah,
Well,
I enjoyed watching that.
I will say, as a Jewish person, the contentious point in the argument of the clip of Hasan, it kind of shocked me, to be honest.
I was a little
Because you guys are fucking stupid Zionists and you guys don't understand the difference between fucking anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. You guys probably don't even know the definition of Zionism. You guys probably just think it's, Israeli. Zionism is Israeli. No, dude. Zionism is a far-right ideology.
To be honest, and as much as I love Sam, he was being very obtuse, in my opinion, when trying to talk about that clip to avoid criticizing Hasan, which is fine. I understand he doesn't want to get into that game, right, of being on record, being like, oh yeah, Hasan shouldn't have said that or whatever, right? But ultimately,
No, he said Hasan shouldn't have said it the way he said it to not get criticized. But like, he didn't say that it was bad. He said anti-Zionism is bad. He said Zionism is bad, and that critique that Hasan did with the Zionism is fine.
obviously I greatly disagree with him, and I think it's kind
So
of...
then you're a Zionist! You're a Zionist! That's what you
It's funny how
are!
he talks about how dangerous it is for me to call out anti-Semitism or
It's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Zionism!
how ridiculous it is
You
for me
fucking raw, you dumb fuck! Jesus fucking Christ!
to weaponize it like that. It's like when at the same time...
It's a weird thing because you don't really want to I understand the impulse to just want to have a conversation with Sam and keep it with the here and now of your beliefs and everything, but
I left in the comments. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. That's the lesson.
the degree to which the harassment that you and Hila have experienced over the last couple years, it is part of the story, and
But that's probably from fucking the Destiny community trying to get you guys to fight with everybody. You guys are being used by dumb fucks online. Stop falling for it. Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Zionism is not a good thing. Don't defend it.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know. It's tricky because
hard to convey that.
I get the impulse to not want to get into it, but that is a component of all of this.
Well, and unfortunately, whatever Sam's been peppered with before the debate, I've seen, is his co-hosts telling him that I'm obsessed with Hasan.
You are. You kept talking about Hasan, and Sam had to tell you not to talk about Hasan.
Having a mental health break, that I'm a genocidal maniac, all this kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, without having any of the backstory, that's the flavor he's coming in with. But ultimately, I find... I don't want to speak ill of Sam, right?
You got fucking wrecked. Admit it.
I appreciate him coming and having an honest conversation with me. I was also disappointed by his response to that specific line of questioning, Zach. I share that with you. And I think the way that he was hand-waving away anti-Semitism as like...
No, he wasn't! Oh my God! He was hand-waving away your conflation of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which it's not. It's not.
It doesn't
You
matter.
keep doing the thing that you're not supposed to do.
That people are discriminating against Jewish people in America because of what's happening in Gaza. And it's like, well, first of all, two different issues, kind of. Whatever's happening in Gaza is one thing, and whatever rise into anti-Semitism we're seeing in America is a whole different fucking thing with its own set of problems.
But it's not Hasan. Hasan is not anti-Semitic, you fucking dumb fuck. Jesus Christ. And that's what you keep saying.
And believe it or not, they're both bad. To the same extent? Obviously not, right? Obviously, one has an immediate, horrible effect in Gaza right now. And the threat of anti-Semitism is an amorphous, nebulous thing that's like hard to measure and hard to say. And Jews, our whole life...
Bro, anti-Semitism is bad, but you're conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. So you think there's more anti-Semitism than there really is. And you think it's on the left, when it's not on the left. On the left, we love Jews. We love peace. We love each other. We love everybody. We love trans people. We don't fucking hate each other, bro. But you keep conflating anti-Zionism, which is something the left does. We hate Zionists because Zionism's bad. Zionism's bad. But you're conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which it's not. You keep doing it.
In America, people call it the golden age of Judaism is this time, the past, 50, 60, 70 years in America for Jewish people. Mm-hmm. We it's hard to tell, right? You go, oh, what is anti-Semitism? What isn't? And when you're allies with people that, in my opinion, are spreading dangerous ideas, like Hasan is. I think Sam, who grew up in a I think he sees too much.
No, you're wrong. You're a fucking Zionist.
Good in Hasan, and I see too much good in the Israeli population.
You're a fucking Zionist.
And hey, who's to say who's right? I'm right.
You're fucking wrong. You're like the most wrong motherfucker in the whole galaxy. Look at that face. That's the most wrong face ever. Nobody makes that face at the end of a fucking conversation. Like, oh, I'm right. I'm obviously right. Nah, bro, you fucking suck.
In the land of the tyrant, where the sun never sets, we march to the beat of oppression's drums. With a powerful ally, our ruling fist is clenched. We'll trample over the weak. Our kingdom will never crumble. From the blood